Hello again, everybody. We have made it. We have reached the Renaissance. And as always, the years we see here are always rough guides because history rarely has clear-cut beginnings and endings for these different movements. So we started with the ancient world, with antiquity. Then we entered into the medieval period, the Middle Ages, and now here we are. So, the roots of the Renaissance, and the word Renaissance means rebirth, are in the Middle Ages. With the Crusades, people had to travel to the Holy Lands, and that led to the growth of cities and increased interaction, both going to the Crusades and then coming back. So please remember that this doesn't happen like that. It's a very slow, gradual process for things getting stirred up and then catching fire, and then the fire starts to spread. So, what is being reborn? It's the rebirth of classical knowledge, Greco-Roman knowledge, ancient Greece, ancient Rome. So, this rediscovery, this rebirth of this knowledge that had been lost when the Roman Empire fell, leads to changes throughout life. Science, math, literature, cultural changes, political changes, economic changes, religious changes, art, the way that people viewed the world and the way that people lived changed during the Renaissance. One of the big principal players for this changing life during the Renaissance was the printing press. And this is something that today in the 21st century, we really don't stop to think about because we have print on demand, right? If you want a book, you can just go to Amazon and click on a book and it'll be printed for you on demand. We really have lost, the gift of the printing press. Before the printing press, of course, everything had to be copied by hand. But now that we have the printing press, life changes and the acceleration of change continues. So this is all part of the Renaissance. Of course, the first book to be printed was the Bible. And the Bible, since we have the printing press, became translated into different languages, not just Latin. So people have a reason to read, right? That's a good thing. So people will want to be able to become literate. And this helps to fuel the Protestant Reformation, which we'll reach in just a few slides. In addition, right, literacy, education becomes more and more important. And this helps to further upset the social order as the middle class grows. So a good way to think about all this stuff that's going on during the Renaissance is that it's like a wheel. In other words, it's not just a straight line flow chart, but all these different things are feeding into the cycle of change. Education, literacy, books, right? We have all this stuff going on. Growth of the middle class. As well, the printing press powers the scientific revolution. How so, you may ask? Because now scientists can record and print and disseminate their discoveries to other scientists. And then they can read about those experiments and they can try them. They can adjust and tailor the experiments and right. So we have all of these things going on. Incredible flowering going on. And then the technologies that were involved with the printing press can be adapted and lead to other inventions. So we have all this stuff going on during the Renaissance, seemingly all at once. It's just like a fire that slowly starts to burn and then it starts to spread. Advancements in astronomy. Before the Renaissance, you'll notice the visual here on the left, people believed that the Earth was the center of the solar system, was the center of the universe. You see that with the Earth, and then everything else revolved around the Earth. Two different astronomers, Copernicus and Galileo, were working separately for years and years and years, and they gathered enough evidence to disprove this model universe. And this was widely believed and taught for thousands of years, that the Earth was the center of the solar system. One of these scientists, Galileo, was declared a heretic, and he was placed under house arrest. And you may ask yourself, well, what in the world? Why would you do that to a scientist who's just coming up with, a discovery? Reason being is that this belief is supported by the Bible, and it was taught by the church. So again, what we see here is that these discoveries are going against what was believed and taught for thousands of years. And you can't, the church, wow, you can't go against what the church is teaching. So the church finds itself under attack from science. And then, boom, the Reformation. These are some of the principal figures in the Reformation. So we'll start with the left. This is Martin Luther. Martin Luther was a German monk, and in 1517, so a little over 500 years ago, he attacked papal authority where he was living in Germany. Martin Luther was upset with how corrupt the church had become, and he wanted the church to reform. So if we take a look here at the word Reformation, we see the root reform. So what Martin Luther wanted the church to do was to reform. He wanted the church to stop being so greedy. And this was the first time that someone had openly spoken out against the church. So when word of this reached Rome, the Pope basically told Martin Luther to cool it. Martin Luther did not. And then the Pope kicked him out of the church, excommunicated him. And then Martin Luther said, well, that's okay. It wasn't my intent, but now that you've done it, I guess I can start my own church. And the church that he started, if we look at his name, we can just add 2 letters to it, and that's the Lutheran Church. So now we have the Protestant Reformation underway. And this is, you'll notice this bullet point here, this is the first time that true freedom of thought is possible. Reason being is that before, what the church said and what the church taught, that was it. Nobody even thought about questioning before the Renaissance. But the Renaissance is about asking questions and looking for answers and recording them and publishing them. So we're getting close to the end of this lecture, so we'll continue talking about the Renaissance and the Protestant Reformation in the next one.